What's going on, everybody? You got Tone here, back with some Draft League content after a long hiatus. But I am here. We are back, and I am here with my draft analysis for a brand new Draft League I joined called the Regional Elite Draft, which essentially is a brand new draft league for Generation 8. I have done some Gen 8 leagues in the past, these past couple of months that I've been off of YouTube, so I have some idea of how some of the Gen 8 mons work, some of the buffs, nerfs, and all that stuff. So this will be the first draft league that I'm actually going to be uploading to YouTube. It's not mandatory, but I just felt like doing it for the sake of having something to do during this time of, I don't want to say isolation, but something along those lines. So if you guys are hyped for this new league, this new team of mons that I drafted, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But in any case, let's jump right into the team. So first and foremost, how this draft works. This is a points-based draft. Each team is given 115 points to draft between 9 and 11 Pokemon. And spoilers, I ended up drafting a full team of 11 mons, and you'll see which ones I ended up grabbing in a minute. So first and foremost, I also want to say that there were 14 coaches in my division, and out of 14 coaches, I had the 12th pick of the draft, which I don't really mind that much. There were some mons I wanted to use to get with an earlier draft pick, but at the same time, being so late, getting my first pick so late in the draft isn't bad either, because I get to take a wait and see approach, see what's available, and then take the best mon available from what's left over from the first 11 after the first 11 picks have been made. So my round 1 pick ended up being having the mindset of taking the best mon available approach. I ended up grabbing pretty much the most expensive Pokemon that was available on the board. It's also a mon I've used a lot in the past. I've used it, I think, at least 1 or 2 times in the past, and that Pokemon just so happened to be AEGISLASH. So AEGISLASH, of course, it cost me 20 points, so yeah, that was a big chunk out of my budget right there. But nonetheless, AEGISLASH unfortunately did get nerfed from a stats perspective. Its defense and special defense gets dropped by base 10 points, and the same thing applies to its blade form, with attack and special attack getting dropped by base 10 points to 140. But nonetheless, though, AEGISLASH is still a great Pokemon. Fantastic typing, Ghost Steel, give me a bunch of resistances and immunities, give me a normal immunity, a fighting immunity, and a poison immunity. It gives me a fairy check, it gives me an ice check, a bunch of other checks, and it's very versatile, giving me something that can potentially run SD, it can do Autotomize, Subtoxic. There's also the potential of running like a Choice Band set, because it now gets access to to close combat. As opposed to running Sacred Sword. Of course, the downside is dropping your defenses, but when you're in Blade 4, you don't really care about your defenses anyway. And of course, King Shield also getting nerfed if a Pokemon makes contact with AEGISLASH while it's using King Shield, its attack falls by 1 stage as opposed to 2 in the past. But nonetheless, AEGISLASH is still a fantastic Pokemon, definitely worth me grabbing for 20 points. And the nice thing about getting AEGISLASH this late is I know I don't have to wait long for my round 2 pick, considering there's only 2 people behind me. So that's 4 picks in between this one and my next one. And the next Pokemon I decided to pick up to pair up with AEGISLASH just so happens to be Hydreigon. Another Pokemon that got some pretty big buffs this generation, getting access to Nasty Plot, make it even more formidable as a breaker, and on top of that, getting access to Dragon Dance so it can make up for its middling base 98 speed, where you really wish the thing could be faster. So yeah, a very great pairing between AEGISLASH and Hydreigon, with Hydreigon being weak to Ice, being weak to Dragon, Fighting, and 4 times weak to Fairy. AEGISLASH is immune to Fighting, resists Ice, resists Dragon, resists Fairy. And then for AEGISLASH being weak to Fire, Ground, and Ghost, Hydreigon resists fire and ghost and is immune to ground type moves thanks to levitate unless her name is a mold breaker Excadrill. But still, Hydreigon, another versatile mon with access to, I already talked about the aforementioned nasty plot, Dragon Dance, so physical stats are a lot more viable. Can still run a Choice Scarf set if I need to, but not so much so this time around, just because of the fact that I do have some fantastic options in Dragon Dance, which is a big boon for it overall, I feel. So moving on to round 3, I ended up picking up Cinderace, which I honestly did not expect to make it back to me for round number 3, but I will gladly take the Cinderace when I can get it. Cinderace, a fantastic Pokemon, base 119 speed, give me something faster than base 110s. 116 attack is really good. I don't get access to the Tinin ability yet, but that's perfectly fine by me. I would be just fine without it. And then, of course, the nickname's not a typo. I deliberately nicknamed it that way because I do feel like there will be a situation where I want to click Powerball with my Cinderace, and I get the feeling that I am going to miss the Powerball when I need it to hit, hence the nickname Lionel MISSI. But nickname aside, though, Cinderace is still fantastic. So, of course, getting access to its signature move Court Change, so any hazards on my side of the field I can put on my opponent instead, giving me some form of hazard control, giving me a good physical attacker, momentum grabber with U-turn, gets decent coverage options, aside from Powerball with high jump kick, gunk shot, supporting moves like Super Fang and Taunt, and of course getting heavy duty boots for a mon that's weak to Stealth Rock is fantastic. And it's a lot bulkier than it can be made out to be. It is actually very bulky if EV'd correctly. So yeah, really happy to actually use and try out Cinderace in this new draft league. So that's pretty much all I want to say about that. Next up, I picked up Gardevoir. Pretty much the reasoning for Gardevoir here was the fact that I really wanted to get a fairy type Pokemon, and this was pretty much around this time where all the fairy types were going, and I figured if I didn't get a fairy type now, I wasn't going to get one that I felt comfortable using with, so I went and picked up Gardevoir. Really familiar with Gardevoir. It's a fantastic Pokemon, gives me a Psychic and Fairy type. I complete my Dragon Fairy Steel Core very nicely. It gives me a potential Choice Scarf user, Choice Specs user, can Calm Mind, can be a Wish supporting set, can Healing Wish, Memento, Trick Room. Pretty much any role I can think of for Gardevoir to fill out, it can do that role and excel at that role. It also gets access to the coveted Mystical Fire, so it still maintains coverage for Steel types, even though it had Focus Blast already, but having a more reliable way of denting Steel types without having to risk missing Focus Blast is always a big boon in this situation. And Trace is just a fantastic ability in terms of copying certain abilities like Intimidate. Just as an example, I can copy like Sand Rush and outspeed like an Excadrill and all that stuff. So yeah, really good options at my disposal regarding the Gardevoir. So moving on, round number 5, I ended up picking up Seismitoad. Seismitoad provided my team with a Stealth Rocker, which I didn't have at the moment. It gives me fantastic typing, water, ground, being only 4 times beat to grass, and I already have 3 grass resistant mons on my draft. I also get a water immunity thanks to Water Absorb. This is just a very solid glue mon to have, which every draft could definitely use. Yeah, again, this is just a very straightforward Pokemon. Stealth Rocker, as far as I'm concerned, can also be a potential Swift Swim Sweeper if I run like a Rain Dance set and proceed to surprise opponents that way. So yeah, a bit more versatile this go around. Does get access to Liquidation and Power Whip this generation, which is also great to hit opposing bulky waters, which is great for any bulky water itself. So having that option in the back is always nice to have. So pretty much it's all I wanted to talk about in terms of Seismitoad. It is a very solid Stealth Rocker and Gloomon for my draft. Next up, round number 6, I ended up picking up Heliolisk. Heliolisk, I wanted an electric type Pokemon. I felt like having some good electric check is nice to have, and they have a Pokemon faster than base 100s is always nice to have as well. And Heliolisk fills out that speed tier I was lacking between Hydreigon and Cinderace very nicely. It gives me a normal type, so I have a Ghost immunity for my Aegislash. I also get another water immunity thanks to Dry Skin. Although this comes at the expense of me being weaker to fire. But Heliolisk is also one of the few electric-type Pokemon that was not affected by the lack of hidden power. Still gets access to Surf, Grass Knot, Hyper Voice for stab option, Dark Pulse. It can also U-turn on top of Volt switching as well, so that's also a good combination to have. If there's any like ground types that I don't really feel comfortable staying in on, I can U-turn and have that extra momentum in the back. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about Heliolisk. It's another solid special attacker, a good offensive pivot if I need to go that route. So that is the Heliolisk. And then moving on to round number 7, I ended up going with TSAREENA. A couple of reasons why I went TSAREENA. First off, I wanted a grass type. I had no ground resist as far as I'm concerned. TSAREENA also provides my team with hazard removal as opposed to just running core change on my Cinderace with a good rapid spin, and rapid spin of course getting buffed with not only being increasing base power but also increasing the Pokemon speed by 1 stage, so it makes up for TSAREENA's sort of lackluster base 72 speed, but it's a good offensive pivot. Gives me, like I mentioned, a rapid spinner, another potential momentum grabber with U-turn, gets good coverage options in high jump kick, play rough, knockoff. It just be a very solid grass type overall. Can get recovery with synthesis if I need to run that role, and of course Queenly Majesty is also very nice for blocking priority moves on opponents. So yeah, pretty much all I want to say about TSAREENA. Just a very solid grass type, solid rapid spinner and a momentum grabber, and I really needed that extra ground resist, but I needed that ground resist and that extra hazard remove without having to run like Defog or Core Change on my Hydreigon and Cinderace respectively. So that is the TSAREENA. Next up, I ended up going with Sirfetch'd with my round 8 pick. Sirfetch'd gives me a fighting type Pokemon, and it's also one of those Pokemon I really wanted to try out in Draft League format. This thing just hits incredibly hard. There were some other fighting type Pokemon available at this point, but the main thing was when it came to my budget, it was either too expensive or it had a typing that overlapped with one of my own. Like I could have opted for Pangoro in this slot, but I think Pangoro was more expensive than Sirfetch'd, and on top of that, Sirfetch'd also provided my team with a stronger priority and while maintaining Scrappy. So being able to close combat ghost type Pokemon without having to worry about them switching in and being immune to it is fantastic. I also have one of the better checks to in Aegislash, although granted it is part steel type, so it is still hit super effectively by the close combat. But aside from running into Pokemon like Cofagrigus, Runerigus that can take the hit and then steal Sirfetch'd's Scrappy ability, nothing much else is going to want to switch in on this thing, especially also with the fact that Scrappy also blocks Intimidate, so that's also a good boon for Sirfetch'd. Also gives me some strong priority with First Impression, gets access to Knockoff, Leaf Blade, Brave Bird, Poison Jab for fairy types. So yeah, this thing has a lot going for it. A very solid physical breaker and benefits from all the momentum I was able to pick up earlier on in the draft. So moving on to round number 9, I knew I wanted a grounded poison, so I picked up Garbodor. Garbodor gives me a few options. First off, like I mentioned, a grounded poison. It gives me a fighting check, a fairy check, as well as hazard support with spikes and toxic spikes. Also getting access to good physical moves, Gunk Shot, Seed Bomb, Stomping Tantrum, Drain Punch. Very good option that is disposal. Aftermath is nice for punishing physical attackers that make contact with Garbodor, and Weak Armor is also good for like outspeeding mons that would naturally outspeed Garbodor, and to price it that way with a more offensive variant of Garbodor. But yeah, the main role for Garbodor is to just provide me with that solid fighting check that all teams could use. Ease the pressure off of me using Gardevoir and Aegislash in that vein. And yeah, just a very good Pokemon, very solid Spiker, which gives me an extra option for hazard support, which is always nice to have for any draft. So moving on, round number 10, I opted to pick up Gigalith with my round 10 pick. 2 reasons. One, I didn't like the concept of having Seismitoad as my only stealth rocker. I wanted another rocker. But my previous options that I was looking at, stuff like Aerodactyl, stuff like Piloswine, those were both taken, and I was kind of strapped for what mons I wanted another stealth rocker. Gigalith does provide my team with a couple of niche ability, well, not abilities, but niche options. It gives me a normal check, a fire check, to ease the pressure on Seismitoad and the Hydreigon and the Cinderace. It also provides Sandstream, which boosts its special defense, making it a lot easier for it to check some special attackers, and just a very solid mon in general. But mainly the role of Gigalith is to fulfill an extra stealth rocking role, which my team lacked, and having some nice resistance as well on top of that. So fits in pretty well with my team as far as I'm concerned. And now moving on to my last pick, I only had 3 points left, and the one thing I really wanted to grab was a flying type because I didn't have one of those yet. So with my last 3 points, I ended up picking up a strong wall breaker in the Noctowl. Now, not really a Pokemon that will blow you away at first glance, but I have 5 words for you: Tinted, Lens, Choice, Specs, Hurricanes. That's all you need to know. If I am able to get in a situation where I'm able to click Hurricane and I hit, something is getting nuked. Something is getting 2-shot right away by Choice Specs Hurricane, as Hurricane has no immunities, and even the bulkiest of resists are taking like 40% from a modest Specs Tinted Lens Hurricane, no doubt. It also gets access to Nasty Plot, making it even more threatening of a breaker. It had access to Calm Mind, has good bulk with base 100 HP, and the lack of it not having U-turn is offset by the fact that I already have 4 of the Pokemon with access to momentum in some way, shape, or form. So having some pivots into some good special and physical wall breakers is always nice to have. Noctowl is a great special wall breaker in that regard. If I'm able to land my Hurricanes, that's pretty much what I'm banking on in that regards. But anyway, that is the team. It's a little bit on the short side, but regardless, I do love how my draft turned out despite all the snipes that happened. I do love my end result. As far as I'm concerned, I will try to upload all my matches in a timely fashion. I don't know what day specifically, but do stay tuned for that when it comes out. If you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button. Hope you guys are excited for this team as much as I am, because I am really excited to try out these mons for sure. Then that's pretty much gonna be it for me, guys. Again, hope you guys did enjoy, stay safe, and until the next time, this is Tone signing out for now. Peace out.